see, won't let me be or let me be me, so let me see. They try to shut me down on MTV, but it feels so empty without me. So come on dip, come on the lips, fuck that, come on the lips, and some on the tips, and get ready, cause this shit's about to get heavy. I just settled on my lawsuit. Fuck you, Debbie! Yeah, this looks like a job for me, so everybody just follow me, cause we need a little controversy, cause it feels so empty without me. I said this looks like a job for me, so everybody just follow me, cause we need a little controversy, cause it feels so empty without me. Little hellions, kids feeling rebellious, embarrassed, the parents still listen to Elvis. They start feeling like prison is helpless, cause someone comes along.
Hello and welcome back, loners, and today we're playing Stalker 2: The Heart of Chernobyl. For those of you that do not know, Stalker is an FPS survival horror and it's the 4th game in the series. Once again, major spoilers ahead, and let's get right into it. So Stalker takes its place in the Zone, a territory fenced off around the 4th reactor of Chernobyl nuclear power plant that exploded in 1984. After the explosion, huge waves of radiation flooded the regions around the power plant, turning it into the zone of alienation with dangerous anomalies and deadly mutants. So if you think about it, it's just like your room, because you never clean it. Also, the artifacts, trinkets with properties unexplainable by science started appearing around the zone, and that's why the zone became a huge place of interest for scientists, military, mercenaries, and anyone trying to find these artifacts to make money. So that last group of people were called Stalkers, but what does Stalker actually stand for? Scavengers, trespassers, adventurers, loners, killers, explorers, and robbers. So pretty much anyone who was in the zone illegally after it was surrounded with walls and military outposts.
Does kind of remind me of a place and a situation that is happening in US right now. Yeah.
So now when we know what the zone is and who resides inside of it, let's get into what gets us into the zone in Heart of Chernobyl. In this game, we play as Skiff, an ex-military whose home was destroyed by an anomaly outside of the zone, which never happened in the past, so he came to the zone looking for answers. He was in contact with one of the professors who was working inside of the zone to recharge the artifact that he found in the debris of his house, so he could sell it and rebuild his home. After a few failed attempts, Skiff was ambushed and knocked out cold. After this little prologue, the game actually starts and we are thrown into the vast world of the zone. So for those of you that did not play the first games, I recommend doing that first before diving into Stalker 2. It is not a necessary step, but it will make everything make more sense, even though you can still understand everything enough if you pay attention to the dialogue and the notes you find. So what is Stalker in the nutshell? I did mention it is an FPS survival horror, and the closest comparison of a game you will have is the Fallout series. You walk around the large map doing quests, making friends and enemies, looting stuff to sell and make money, and just generally exploring to find lost lore or something interesting. You can explore everything when you want, but you will need better gear and weapons to make sure you can survive, because any fight or a wrong step can send you back to your last save. The only part that is different is Stalker is much less player-friendly than Fallout because it's more realistic than arcade-ish. There are no perks, no character levels, just you and the zone. You will need to take care of your gear, make sure you have enough food and heals every time you decide to go on an adventure, and pay attention to everything to make sure you stay alive. So why does it sound so scary? Well, because it is. Even if you play Stalker on the lower difficulties, you have to utilize everything you have to make it from point A to point B. You can die pretty much anywhere. A random encounter with the bandits, too much radiation poisoning, bleeding out after a fight with mutants, or stepping into an anomaly and turning into dog food.
Of course, none of this is real trouble for a professional stalker like me. Wait a minute.
I didn't mean it that way, but you know what I mean. But at the same time, you will need to take your chances by exploring the map to find artifacts and loot so you can afford to fix or upgrade your gear and buy ammo or heals, and trust me, you will need a lot of it. Also, I do keep on mentioning the anomalies, but I did not explain what those are. Anomalies are some changes in the spaces of the zone that are mostly deadly, but they're the reason artifacts are in the zone because they get produced in the anomalies. You will need to avoid them not to get turned into fresh portion of ground beef. You will have a detector that will beep when you get closer to the anomalies, and the same detector will help you find the artifacts around them. And to give you a little bit more of a knowledge on artifacts, those are little trinkets that are usually very radioactive, but they have some positive effects like protection from a certain type of damage or increasing your total stamina. Now let's talk about the mutants. They're basically animals that got some radiation poisoning and were genetically changed because of that. If in the previous Stalker games mutants were just another obstacle in your way, in Heart of Chernobyl they're actually deadly, and even a pack of some dogs can kill you with no issues. I'm not going to spoil all of the mutants, but trust me, you better be ready when any of them show up. Lastly, there's radiation all over the zone, and if you get too much of the gamma rays and you don't have any antirads or some good old vodka, you can say goodbye to all of your loot. Now that we got all of the non-human danger out of the way, let's talk about the humans. There are stalkers all around the zone, and while some of them are friendly, the others might just attack you out of the blue because they feel like it. I would say humans are the easiest enemies to face unless you run out of ammunition, and then you will have to use those 12 grenades that you looted and never used in the first place. There are different factions, and some of the decisions you make in the game will turn some faction against you or will actually make them friendly. Now let's talk about the map. In this game, the whole map is put together and you do not need to wait for the game to load when you go from one location to the other. There are still some points where you will have to wait for the load, but mostly it's just an open world. One point of this game I didn't like too much is that most of the time you will spend in this game is running from one side of the map to another. And yes, there are those save zones that have guides that can take you to another save zone, but I'm mostly talking about finishing a quest in the middle of nowhere and using all of your energy drinks to run to one of those save zones and sell all of your loot. Now everyone will ask, why do I carry so much loot in the first place? Well, if you want to have some guns that actually shoot straight and gear that can have you take a bullet without you losing majority of your health, you will need to upgrade both. And that takes a lot of money, especially if you have top tier loot. Did I also mention that you will need to keep your guns in good condition, because if it keeps jamming mid-fight, good chances that you are fucked. But also making extra money from side quests is not the best option, because they will give you less money than the loot you got from all of your enemies or stashes. Right, I keep on mentioning the save zones. Those are some places on different locations that are safe and you can find vendors, mechanics, and doctors at. Also, you can find some extra quests there and they will reward you with some extra cash, but as I mentioned before, they give you almost nothing. Now let's talk about the connection of the game to the previous games. There is a lot, and that's exactly why I recommend you play previous games before you get into this one. A lot of the locations from previous games are present and you will visit almost all of them while doing main quests. There are also a lot of characters that have been in the previous games, and all 3 main characters from the first 3 games are in this game and are closely tied to the story, even though some of the characters did kinda change since we last saw them. This makes the game feel even more nostalgic. Some people will say that this is just lazy design, but those people can go f themselves because all of the interactions are new and only some quests are kinda similar to pay respects to the people that previously worked on the other games. Now let's get to the graphics. This time the game was made on Unreal 5 and it looks pretty solid. The only problem is that the game was not optimized on the release and I had to throw all of my settings down on medium to not get FPS drops. But as I always say, if you care about the graphics, go touch some grass. The visuals are very good, different locations look beautiful, and that's all that matters. The character face emotions, on the other hand, looked kinda goofy in some parts, but I can't keep bashing the game of this scale for that. Now let's get to the music. As always, beautiful. The songs that you hear on the radio, or just hearing someone play the guitar next to a campfire, add so much to the atmosphere. You guys wanna hear a song? Now to voice acting. It's really good, but my problem is that a lot of people in the game speak English with English accents. I would love this game so much more if more of the characters had Slavic accents or even accents of countries from Europe. Yes, having some characters speak perfect English is fine, but it just feels kinda wrong. And yes, I do understand the situation that the developers were in. I'm just saying what I would have loved to see. Now let's talk about bugs, and boy, oh, where do I start? There are so many bugs. I think this game could go toe-to-toe with Cyberpunk on its initial release. Anything from bodies flying around, invisible enemies, down to some parts of the game breaking and you just not being able to advance. Yes, Stalker always had this many bugs. Yes, it's an initial release. And yes, I was ready for it. And yes, I'm not blaming the devs. But holy shit, the bugs were just through the roof. So overall, the game is very solid, and the fact that you can play it just by having the Game Pass is a huge treat. I felt like I was 10 years old again playing through this game. Everything was just perfect for me besides some of the minor details. Did I like playing Stalker 2? Too much. I spent too much time on this game already, and no, it wasn't rushing through the game just to make a video about it. Did I leave a lot of parts out in this video? I did. And it wasn't to keep it shorter, it's so you can play the game and experience everything yourself, because holy shit, I do not remember the last time I got sucked into the game this much. So once again, thank you for watching, everybody. If you like my content, please leave a like, subscribe, and leave a comment about the game that I should play next. I'm also back to streaming on Twitch, and I'm playing the games for the videos, and I'm just playing some of the games with my friends and the viewers, so make sure to check that out as well. But other than that, have a good day, and yeah, I'll see you in the next one.